and welcome to our Otter update for April. I'm your host, Savannah Miller, and this is my co-host, Peyton Marquette.
Hello, Savannah. What have you been doing as spring comes along?
Well, I'm super excited for the weather to finally pick a temperature. It's been about 2 months of this nonsense, and I'm finally ready for it to end. Otherwise, I'm rehearsing for a spring dance show in June. How about you?
Well, I'm also really upset about the weather, but our tennis season just started, and that's been pretty fun.
Nice. How's your season been?
Well, the weather sure hasn't cooperated so far, but I'll share more about it next month. In the meantime, our Otter update has been dedicated to unique opportunities by the school available to students.
Well, to kick things off, let's check in with this month's spotlight on some of the student interns who are working out in the community. We'll follow up with that with their teacher, Mrs. Anderson, expanding career and technical education.
Senior reporter Isaac Job here with
Owen Bebulian.
What's it like interning at the Prairie?
It's really fun. There's a lot of different stuff we do out there with the kids and then meeting with different members of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Can you tell me one thing that you've done there?
Well, just the other day we were in the barn with the 5th grade class while they did the stream table, learning about like rivers and how they flow and the different types of rivers.
So what's your biggest challenge interning at the Prairie?
The biggest challenge is probably trying to get as much done as possible because there's so many different things to do out there and there's not very many people there to do it.
So since you're at the Prairie, how often are you in a classroom?
I'm here at Kennedy 1st hour through 5th hour, and then 6th and 7th hour I go out to the Prairie.
So how does this internship shape up your future?
I've kind of wanted to do something for like natural resources or like wildlife management, so it's kind of a good way to get my foot in the door, learning about these different job opportunities with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and then also some companies that are kind of affiliated with them, like Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, and those kind of groups.
Okay, thank you, Owen, for your time.
Thank you.
Senior reporter Isaac Job here with
Carson Oliphant.
So what's it like interning at the Downtown Riverfront Council?
Yeah, so Downtown Riverfront Council, I'm actually only there one day, and then I'm at 3 other local downtown businesses the rest of the time, and I've been enjoying it so far. It's been good.
All right, can you give me an example of what you've done there?
Yeah, so one of the projects they're actually working on right now is we're trying to revitalize the Meet Your Neighbor video series. So what it kind of is we go and interview, kind of like this, we go and interview local downtown businesses and their owners just to kind of see what they're about, who they are, and then that goes on to the website and their socials. So that's what we're kind of trying to do right now.
So what would be your biggest challenge interning there?
Yeah, so probably like some of the biggest challenges I face is like since I'm at so many different places, kind of like scheduling time to do all my work can kind of be a little bit difficult. So I do have some work at home, which I don't really mind, but that's probably like the biggest challenge, just trying to find time to get everything done.
So since you're downtown most of the time, how often are you in a classroom?
Yeah, so on Tuesdays we actually have seminar with Miss Anderson, so then the rest of the 4 days I'm downtown with the local businesses and the Riverfront Council.
So how does this internship shape up your future?
Yeah, so last fall I was kind of on the edge of like what I really wanted to do, and I was talking to Miss Anderson and she kind of gave me a few ideas for like what internships could look like for me. And I just kind of said, anything really with marketing, business, I was like, just sign me up for it. So this kind of like helps me decipher whether I want to do like business, marketing. Talking to so many different business owners, it kind of gives me an idea of like what that could look like for my future. So even if I don't really want to do exactly what I'm doing for my internship, I think it'll set me up for my future very well.
All right. Thank you, Carson, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Junior reporter Peyton Marquette here with Mrs. Anderson, here to interview about the career and technical education programs. For students signing up for the career and technical program, what should they expect?
When you sign up for a career and tech ed course, you can expect lots of hands-on activities. It's not going to just be sitting at a desk and taking notes and taking tests, but it's hands-on. You are also going to be learning the technical skills that you would need for success in specific careers. Another thing is that you can expect a practical application of what you're learning in other classes. And so you might be learning some great math skills in your math class, and then you're going to use those math skills in for instance, your architecture class or in your construction classes. So you're going to use those skills in a really practical way.
How many classes in the program offer job shadowing or internship opportunities?
So the nice thing about career in tech is it lends itself really well to internships and job shadowing because there are hands-on types of things that you can do. So I can give you a few examples of that. So in our metals 1, 2, and 3 classes, we actually have had a couple of students who've done welding internships. We also have a student right now who is doing an automotive internship. And this student is actually in Mr. Heikes's class Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then is going out into a business on Tuesdays and Thursdays to see what it's like to actually take the skills that they're learning in the classroom into the community. So we have students who have taken the child development class and now are at 3 different child care centers throughout the community getting some observation hours to complete their class for college credit. Let's see, we've also done business internships like in accounting and marketing. We've done some in IT and also construction, but the key about construction, you have to be 18 or older to do an internship in construction as well. Let's say that you really enjoy journalism. We could maybe put you at the Daily Journal and do something in an English-related field. I think it provides a lot of great opportunities. So we are really trying to grow our programs all of the time. And so we're excited to be adding some new staff members to Career in Tech Ed. And so as we are adding new staff members, there's new classes that are going to be offered for our students. So that's pretty exciting. And besides the other things that we've already talked about, just having our students get out into the community to experience these different careers is important as well. I just want to encourage all students to consider career and technical education courses. No matter where you're headed, it's going to benefit you in the long run.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You know, Savannah, it can feel like school and home life are pretty separate from each other. But here at KSS, programs like Mrs. Anderson's and classes you can take in STEM, business, and industrial research are becoming more connected every day.
True. In fact, Otter Update reporter Isaac Job is pretty happy with what Otter's program has taught him. So we went on an assignment to the Roosevelt building to find out where Mr. Heikes would like to see his classes go in the future.
Oh, interesting. Otto students do seem like they connect with each other over the work they do. And those connections can mean a lot. And on that topic, our principal, Mr. Anderson, is using social and emotional learning to create a more connected environment for students. Our Update reporter, Ben Johnson, checked in with Mr. Solon to see how he uses SEL in his classes.
So, Heikes, can you tell me about the future plans of Otto's?
Yeah. Pre-COVID, we used to do a number of competitions, the students would, and I'd really like to get back to doing them competitions again. I also would like to get a couple of our credits we offer here to be accredited with schools, so that students that graduate from this program can leave this program with a couple college credits already. And I've discussed with that we have good relationships with these colleges that are close to us, and we've had discussions, and they feel that too. They're coming out of here with a good grasp of that knowledge, and there's no reason for them to take it again in college. So,
You said something about auto competitions. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
sure. So typically we do about 4 competitions a year, and the big trip is we go down to the Chrysler Center in Minneapolis, and we just get together and do a hands-on competition. They're all in shop environments, so you have vehicles there that students get to test on, and it's really a good experience for the students. They get to meet other students, like-minded students, and compete against them. And we all know competition is always a good thing. And all the competitions have prizes. Students in the past have come back and they've done very well, come back with some nice prizes. Big one is one we're still trying to get at the Chrysler Center in Minneapolis. We win that one. That's an all-expense paid trip out to New York City, where we get to compete on a national level. And we've been close. We've taken second there once. So I'm really excited about getting back into doing some competitions.
Thank you, Heikes. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm here with Noah Goops. So what are your opinions on these auto classes?
I think it's one of the best classes to take if you have an interest in cars.
What's your favorite part about these auto classes?
I think my favorite part is just being able to bring your own car and work on it, get whatever done you need to get done on it. nice to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you, Noah.
Thank you.
I'm here with Aiden Strickler. So what are your opinions on auto classes?
Well, it's pretty helpful if you want to get into the automotive area. There's pretty much any tool you could possibly need here, and Hikus is a pretty good teacher. So,
What would you say is your favorite part of any of these auto classes you've taken?
I think being able to bring your own stuff in and work on it, because you only need to pay for the parts that you need and not any kind of labor or anything. And then you get to learn how to work your own vehicles on, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Aiden.
Hey lads, I'm sure you've done an SEL assignment before, but maybe you didn't know that you were doing one. Well, today I'm interviewing our high school principal, Mr. Anderson, and one of our high school teachers, Mr. Solon, about what SEL is and why they're doing it.
Student reporter Ben Johnson here with Mr. Anderson, and today we're going to be talking about SEL. So, Mr. Anderson, could you tell us what SEL is?
Yep, it's a social emotional learning, so it works on social and self-awareness. So individuals understand who they are and have the ability to communicate that information to their peers and adults in the building. Also social awareness, what's going on, what's happening in our school, in our community, in our country. Be aware of that, understand that. Now, don't always have to agree with everything, but understand and have a perspective of where people come from in that piece. Self-management, obviously managing your emotions and all those type of things, and also organizing yourself, getting yourself prepared in those pieces. Another big piece is relationship building, and how do you build those relationships? That if you and I don't see eye to eye per se, that's not a bad thing, but how can we build a relationship where we're in a class together and we have two different viewpoints? How do we understand and trust and value what each other says and build that relationship and know that I'm not trying to change your mind, you're not trying to change my mind. You just want to give perspective on that type of thing and build those relationships. And the last piece is decision making. We want to teach kids also how to make the right decisions. And then it's okay if you make a decision and it doesn't work. How do you rebound on that, reflect on it, and make it so it doesn't happen?
And what kind of impact are you hoping to make with SEL?
Allowing people to get to understand that we're not all the same, and that's okay. We can have our different viewpoints, but we can still have those relationships and that deep culture in our building. We also want those opportunities where both our students and staff know each other in a way that's not just, hey, I have a purple shirt on today and you like purple, hey, nice shirt, but you know who I am as the principal of the high school or your teacher in the classroom, more than just, I'm Mr. Anderson and you're just more than Ben. We're hearing positive things from both our students and staff, so we want to continue to build that momentum into a better culture for us here as an overall school.
So, Mr. Solon, I just have a few questions for you today about SEL.
Sure.
So, first of all, how do you feel about doing the SEL activities?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's kind of a new experience for all of us here at Fergus Falls to try this, but there's been just based on the name of it, but there's many teachers that have been doing this for a long, long time. And really, I like it because it allows us just to get to know kids on a different level. My favorite thing is that you get a chance to hear stories that you otherwise wouldn't, and just daily conversation. And I think that's the best part of it.
All right. What's the most memorable SEL activity you've done so far?
I think this was a couple weeks ago, but the favorite one I think I had was when the question came up is like what you look for in a hero, or who is a person you would admire. And I really enjoyed hearing the students' responses on that. And I think across the board, there was people from all walks of life, but a lot of times it came down to as a parent or a trusted adult, somebody that looked at a student and saw potential where others didn't. And I think all of us not just students, but adults alike need that in each other. And that's what people really were looking for. And that's what people loved when they thought of a hero or somebody that they could admire in life. That was pretty cool.
All right. So last question for today.
Yeah.
How do you feel the SEL activities are helping students?
I can't really say that too much from just from a teacher's perspective, but I like to see, like in my classroom, that after I do them, it seems like students are a little bit more willing to talk in class, a little bit more willing to participate in other activities. And the hope is that students really do realize that we want to get to know you better as people, not just students in our classroom and not just numbers in a grade book. And the hope is that you find some success with this and enjoy our classes that much more.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
Mr. Solon. Senior reporter Ben Johnson signing off.
Wow, the autos class and Mr. Hikus are really passionate about what they do. And I've been in class with Mr. Millard during an SEL discussion. We did a few team building exercises. Peyton, have you done any team building exercises or had SEL discussions with classes?
Yeah. In my public speaking class, Ms. Christensen offers us occasional mental health days, and we get to do a lot of fun activities during those.
Wow, that sounds nice. But SEL isn't the only trend that our teachers have been trying to incorporate into our school lives. Another movement, project-based learning, is something that KSS students will notice more of as they progress throughout high school.
I had an interview with Mr. Anderson about PBL, and I followed it up with an interview with our own video productions teacher, Mr. Millard, who also uses PBL in 9th grade.
There are a lot of ways that teachers try to add variety, but even some of the most basic things about school have to change occasionally. And there are a couple of big changes coming our way. So I sat down with Superintendent Drigg to get an update on how our schools will function in the future.
So, Mr. Millard, what projects do you do in your classroom?
For project-based learning, my main contribution to any semester is in my 9th grade classes, and we do what's called Passion Project, which is something I think a lot of students will have heard because it's definitely not just me. Passion Project at the 9th grade level was started by Mrs. Christensen, who's taught a lot of different English classes here, and she got me involved and shared her process with me, and we developed as kind of a specific 9th grade component for both semesters. So a good example would be in English class, you're usually writing papers or learning new vocabulary or doing research. Passion Project says, okay, you probably have a really fun hobby or something that you are trying to get good at in your personal life. What if you turned that into a project where you learn new vocabulary, did research, and advanced that hobby in such a way that you had to write about it? That project then is shared with a classroom. Kids can compare their progress. They're accountable to not just themselves, but also what kinds of lessons they're supposed to learn in 9th grade. And the projects themselves are supposed to be of a benefit to somebody else outside of our classroom. Do you remember what yours was?
I think I was making a Minecraft server, but I didn't know how to code, and I didn't know how to do anything. But then by the end, I kind of figured it out, and I got it running.
So it's something you love to do, but had to learn more about to do it better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which classes will this be altered?
Every classroom will have it at least once for every staff member here at the high school. One of the big pieces are special education and our EL program. They will support students when they come back into the resource room. So it'll be every department here at the high school will have this at least once for each teacher next year.
Okay, sounds like a really big change then.
It is.
How do you think project-based learning differs from just regular assignments in terms of student learning?
That's something your teachers have talked a lot about, and in my impression of it, it comes down to being student-led. Teachers need to get comfortable with letting students take charge, and the results aren't going to necessarily be something that's traditionally gradable. And how do you turn that into a project that is researchable and that they're going to write about? Those are the kinds of things that you don't necessarily have to think about when you're just, reading a book with a kid in language arts class. And then the other thing is that project-based learning has to be community-centered. So whatever you do, there needs to be a way for it to have a clear, not necessarily a solution to a problem, but a contribution to something positive outside of that kid's, desk in the classroom. And sometimes for kids, it's in their family. The ideal is to have their projects benefit a kind of a community target. But that'll take years. That's not something we're trying to make happen next semester.
Yeah, okay. What changes does the school expect to come from this?
Hopefully more engagement from students. So this kind of leads into students doing the leading. It's not teachers leading. So it'll be a little bit different for students. So it'll allow them to have a little bit more voice in this project and how they want to get around getting it completed and managing that time and organizing it. So it's kind of real world experience, but at the same time, kids get to lead it and have the ownership of what is happening in class.
Junior reporter Savannah Miller recording to you live again at Fergus Falls High School. I interviewed Superintendent Drake about the 5th grade moving and the grade changes that are coming next to you. Here's what I got for you.
All right.
Can you describe to our audience what new changes will be happening here at KSS with the new buildings within the next 1 to 2 years?
We purchased the Target building about 3 years ago, and we did phase 1 of that project, which was Otter preschool. So the first phase was all early childhood. Phase 2, the way we planned it right now would be finishing up the last 48,000 square feet of that building with the idea of moving kindergarten over into that phase 2 space. That work would commence this coming fall with the idea that it would finish up about June maybe of 2023, and the kindergarten would be able to move over there starting the fall of 2023. If kindergarten is starting 2023 over at Lincoln School, then 5th grade would move down from Kennedy Secondary School into Cleveland, and Cleveland would become a grades 4-5 building. Then 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, they would be shared between McKinley and Adams. And there's a couple trains of thought here. One would be kind of the split grade levels like we're doing currently. So, for example, 1st and part of 2nd in McKinley, 2nd and all of 3rd in Adams. But the other option would be to have each of those 2 buildings house parts of grades 1, 2, and 3.
How long do you think that this transition will take?
All of this really could take place as early as a year from this coming fall. What do we do with 5th grade? People felt that, maybe developmentally, and I probably fall in this camp myself, 5th grade fits a little better in an elementary model versus a high school. We thought it made sense on looking at it from both angles. That was a key component about what we were trying to do here. As these bigger classes move into Kennedy Secondary School, it's just getting fairly crowded. It is tough to find available classroom space for students to be taking their classes. The cafeteria is packed, the hallways are crowded. So just with the ability to maybe move 5th grade out of here, it would just create a little bit more elbow room while these big grades are moving through.
How do you think this will personally affect the elementary school students or the younger grades?
I think there's some excitement about the potential for kindergarten to move in a brand new space out at Lincoln School. The design is pretty cool. I think the teachers who had a lot of input on what that might look like would be excited about it.
Is it possible for neighborhood schools to come back?
Well, so I think that grades 1, 2, and 3 in McKinley and Adams, if we ended up going that route, would be kind of a neighborhood school concept. At one time, I think the district may have had as many as 7 elementaries or so. There were a lot of them, and we don't have that configuration anymore. But I think this would be perhaps something that the community would be excited about.
Is there any changes that you would like to talk about other than the grade shuffling?
Well, we're doing a lot of we've done a lot of visioning for what we want the experience in our district to look like. So you're starting to see some of those pieces come into effect. On the high school, you've seen some social emotional learning stuff, like for the first couple weeks of school when we really focused on making those relationships with students. You're going to see more of that incorporated. So we want to make sure that we know who our students are, they know us, that they know that we care about them and are here as help and support. The other key piece is really making sure that our students receive 21st century education. So you're going to see more incorporation of experiential kind of hands-on learning components through project-based learning. You're going to see us pay a lot of attention to character, those honesty, hardworking, kind of core Midwestern traits, thankfulness, gratitude. So we really affect our climate and culture in the district in a very positive way and continue to build on the positive things that are already in place.
So that's all I have for you today. So thank you for all your time.
That was a nice look into the future of our school district, but our next story takes a look in the past. Otter Update reporter Ben Johnson went on a special assignment this month to cover a unique project by a retired school teacher here in Fergus Falls. Richard Instead has spent the last few years reviving the art of industrial rope making, and his results are going to be displayed in a museum in San Diego.
Wow, industrial rope making?
Yeah, it's not something that you think would come naturally, right?
No, not at all.
Rope is just one of those things people have coiled up in their garage somewhere.
I mean, I guess it is easy to take for granted, but another old art that we shouldn't take for granted is theater. KSS is fortunate enough to put on plays throughout the school year, so let's check in with the director, Mr. Scharnberg, and his lead actor for the spring play, I Am Frankenstein.
Hey lads, today I'm going to be interviewing Mr. Enstedt about a rope twining machine. These were used back in the mid-1800s and the early 1900s.
Senior reporter Ben Johnson here with Mr. Enstedt. And today, Mr. Enstedt, I have a couple questions I'd like to ask you about this machine that's sitting right in front of us here.
Sure.
So for our first question, who was this machine intended for?
Well, this particular model is going out to the National Maritime Museum in San Francisco. It's one that I built about 10 years ago, and a lot of the information on building these, the designs, was based on machines from the old Tubbs Cordage Company that was in San Francisco that now is in storage at the museum's warehouse. And so we thought it would be a good place for it to go home. And it's either going to be used as a static display, but it is a working model. So as we just showed, the machine that this one is patterned after, Tubbs Cordage closed in 1962. Now there are still rope walks in use. There's one in Sweden, there's one in Germany. And the reason those are still in existence is that they have the ability to change the characteristics of the rope very easily. If you're changing it on one of the automated machines, it's a commitment. They want to make thousands and thousands of feet. And if you don't need that much, these people can make the rope that is better suited for their needs.
All right. So my last question for today, how did the museum get involved with this project here?
For a number of years, I'd kind of been tracking down this information, mainly on the internet, some books. We had visited Mystic Seaport in Connecticut. There's a static display there from the Plymouth Cordage Company that kind of whetted the appetite. Then we got involved with a celebration out in San Francisco, which led us to the Maritime Museum. When the Tubbs Cordage Company closed in '62, they had the more modern machines, but they also had the rope walk machines that were no longer being used. When they closed the doors, the machines went to the museum, into the warehouse at the Maritime Museum, where I had a chance to get up close personal. And then we connected with the Maritime Museum, and we've been going out for the Ship of the Sea celebration in San Francisco for a number of years. So that was the connection as to why it was going there.
All right. Well, thanks for your time today, Mr.
Thank you.
Senior reporter Ben Johnson signing off.
Junior reporter Savannah Miller recording to you live at Fergus Falls High School. Today I'm going to be looking at an inside details of our new play, I Am Frankenstein. Here's what we got for you.
Alright, Anna, what would you say your character in I Am the Frankenstein is like?
So the story is based off of Frankenstein, the novel. So my character's Elizabeth, so she's very similar to the character from the book, but she just has a little bit more personality in that she's a lot smarter, but she often has to hide that intelligence because she's a woman. And also she's very loyal and a very empathetic person.
So the idea is this scientist inventor guy named Victor bringing to life a human sort of creature that he's pieced together from bodies that he's dug up from various graveyards, and so it's a bit of a horror sort of story, and it really explores philosophy and morals and ethics, and should we, just because you can do something with science, should you kind of deal. So
What is your favorite scene in this?
I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll leave out some of the details, but there's a scene where Elizabeth and Victor are in a cemetery and they're burying a body. And that's probably my favorite scene because it's really the climax of Elizabeth's character development, because she goes from this really young, naive person to, she has to grow up a lot. And that scene is really where you see it happen.
What do you enjoy most about being in theater?
I really like being able to become someone else in a way. I like being able to develop my character and make it my own, but in the same sense, just becoming another person. And then I also like getting to wear costumes and work on set and like see the final product.
What advice would you give to anybody who would like to try out theater but is skeptical about it?
It's not as scary as you think, because when you're on that stage, you're not yourself, you're someone else. So it's often easier to perform. Or as if someone's worried about the commitment of it, it's actually way easier than sports in the sense that you don't have to be there every single day unless you're a lead, because our performance is usually the first week or second week of May.
The play is on May 13th to 14th. Make sure all of you come. That'll be downtown at Center for the Arts.
What has it been like working with this cast?
These kids are just so full of life and creativity, and they're funny and also teach me just so much about life, and they help me to stay young as well. So.
Awesome. That's all I have for you today, so thank you.
All right.
Hey KSS, that's all the stories we have for you this month, but we'll be back for one last time in May.
So look forward to it.
Until then, I'm Peyton Marquette.
And I'm Savannah Miller.
Stay classy, KSS.